Hi.
Hi. Holy shit, I feel like every time we dare to take a break, we come back and it is unequivocally worse. How is everybody doing? I hope you're all doing good. Probably not good, honestly, right?
Things would be getting worse whether we were taking a break or not. That's just the progression of time.
I wasn't making a correlation that like us being away somehow superstitiously making things worse. I'm just saying that like every time I come back I want to be like, oh, things are on the up. No, things are on the down, I guess. But one good thing that has happened is that we managed to get our first vaccine. We have entered the jab club.
Jab club.
Jab club.
I don't want to join that, but I have. I spent yesterday feeling immensely tired. Blah, 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 insert 5G joke here. But yeah, you painted the kitchen, so you had the opposite effect. It inspired you to do handy person work. So maybe we should be getting you vaxxed every day of the week.
All the time, yeah. I'm like,
constant vaccine.
Jabs. It was like a time I got a jab in my ass. Not my asshole, just my ass.
Thank you for clearing that up. Not the hole.
Someone was like, get a B12 job in your butt, and it'll like really like pep you up. And it was for sure just a
just an excuse for the doctor to see your bottom.
Oh yeah, like just someone seeing my butt and being like, ooh, was just enough. No, it was what's the effect?
Placebo.
It was just clearly the placebo effect. So I was like, I feel so
Mandela
alive.
effect.
It was the Mandela effect. But yeah, no, I got vaccinated also, and you know, I feel like the place we went could have been cleaner, but
I never felt more worried about getting sick than crammed into that room of people breathing heavy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, logically, anyone who's getting vaccinated probably takes the virus seriously and therefore is taking precautions.
Why did it look like a 90s like hotel in Queensland? Like it was distressing.
Oh, I can't imagine why this regional medical centre looked like a repurposed milk bar. Like, what the hell did you expect?
I don't know, but I thought it would be like more clinical and like, I don't know. But anyway, super excited to get that done and feel, you know, happy to have this like medical marvel in my arm.
What's up? Was that the side you got in then?
Yeah, this is for me. And I guess like the only symptom I'm having that it's been about 36 hours and all I'm experiencing is like it's quite sore to the touch. But being quite fortunate that that's it. I'll put the statistics up here about the
number of people who've melted.
Yeah, the melted, but also the regular side effects. Like it's very common to have some side effects. I feel quite lucky to really have had none. But yeah, you're feeling
Yes, if you burst into flames upon having a vaccination, let us know in the comments below. I didn't feel too shit. I'm fine with needles, funnily enough. I mean, who'd have thought looking at me that I'd be okay with being probed with sharp metal objects? But yeah, my arm has been feeling very unpleasant. They tell you you're not meant to sleep on that side, and I rolled over a couple of times. It was really unpleasant. But I wanted to test just how sensitive I am here. So I bought this new industrial-sized staple gun from Bunnings. Thanks, Bunnings!
Please
corporate
don't wave it near my face.
This is legit. Boom! Boom!
Oh
there we go. That's proof. So I'm just going to pop this in
at me.
more. I'm going to go more or less in the area where I got jabbed yesterday. And
what are you proving?
So, as someone who's been stapled on more than one occasion, that was quite painful. But let's be sure for science.
I hate you so much. Like it's so upsetting. What are you proving? Get vaccinated.
Get vaccinated, kids here.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah. Ooh yeah. That's
Imagine if you have like a study come out of Israel that's like, don't staple your arm unless it's the effectiveness of the vaccine. It turns out that
the vaccine is fine, but if you synergize it with a staple, it will then
melt your body,
decombinate your DNA, and if I turn into a puddle of goo next year in the course of the episode, well, sorry everyone I was rude to on the internet.
I'm not sorry. Wow. Okay. So what have we learned?
Don't staple yourself in the arm at the best of times, especially when you got your vaccination in there yesterday, because this continues to rise in unpleasantness as the episode goes. You kidding? This is like a you never take the thing out. That's what's sort of stopping me from deflating all over the table here.
Okay, all right.
Fine. Well, you keep talking and I'll take this.
I'll keep talking, because this episode was actually theoretically about sort of like an ideological divide. That's why the title is with us. So thank you for that contribution, Wrestler Man. Do you need to...
Imagine if my vaccine leaks out of the holes and I'm no longer vaccinated. How embarrassing. But no, seriously, you've got a big episode to present and shout at me. Let's get started.
Let's get started. I'm going to put a picture here while I read my statement, because I feel like I just really want to get our caveats. This video, of course, will not change minds. This is a summary of what we see is an unfolding ideological divide. I also want to put in a caveat about The people that we are referring to are, of course, people. I know that seems insane and redundant to need to say it, but I do want to acknowledge that I realize that everybody is a person. Everybody has complexities, contradictory beliefs, human psychology and physiology that all leaves us susceptible to certain biases, and violence is never / rarely the solution. And I say rarely because I'll get some kind in the comments being about, what about X? And sure, so 99% of the time, violence is not a real resolution. And as easy as it is to ridicule, let out the steam of the idiocy that we have to endure, I realize that that ridicule is not a solution in terms of changing minds. I just want to get those caveats out of the way.
So, but sometimes violence is the answer.
Oh,
just to be clear,
I'm just leaving.
There are occasions when violence is the answer. You don't want it to be the answer, but sometimes it is.
I'm just leaving the tiny room for the real specific, philosophical case studies where you probably could make it. So
oh yeah, 99.8% time, no violence, but within that 2%, it's fucking stabbing time.
Let's put in that. Guys.
Dang, dang, dang. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. But ideally, no. All right, cool.
Ideally, no.
I'm on board. I'm on board with this so far. You got me so far.
Okay.
We haven't ideologically divided yet.
Me and you, do you think we will by the end of this episode? Let's find out.
We never argue any other time, so odds are against it.
I just love you all the time and everything is great. All right, so this week we had the continued conversation about what the future looks like. The New South Wales government has descended into kind of accepting that they've lost control of the Delta variant. And we can see that in this graph here, that the kind people of Reddit have kindly supplied, where they track the words that Gladys Berejiklian says during her, daily press conferences. You can see, it's almost like Lisa's graph, where it's you can see the rise of sort of please and get vaccinated with the decline of the let's try and quash this and zero. So it's pretty evident that they are now, going for this sort of
not zero.
Yeah, not zero. What's going on over there?
Nothing, just quietly.
So you're picking at your scabs?
I'm just bleeding my visor out.
Really? Because it's a little distracting that you're picking at your scabs.
I'm not picking at my scabs, I'm admiring the colour.
Oh my god.
Alright, you read your thing, I'll play with my holes.
So
like a lot of other videos on the internet, relax.
So now Berejiklian's addresses to the public are mostly about vaccination, getting to that mystical 70, when they really mean 80%, of the adult population vaccinated. And we sort of are watching journalists sort of try to glebe information about what the future is. Tell us, leaders, what is the future? And the reality is, nobody really knows. And so we're looking for certainty in a world that is literally full of uncertainty. We kind of keep pointing to the Doherty report, which has the modeling of about 70% to, again, 80% of the adult population being vaccinated with some kind of hope of opening up. Sydney seems to be like, you know what, we'll just shoot for that rather than we're gonna get to that faster than we are quashing, cases, because we'd rather have Bunnings have to regulate itself than for us to be like, maybe you shouldn't be going to Bunnings or browsing for pens, as the excellent, Chase article that we put up here. Scott Morrison was on the ABC earlier, and he kind of vaguely addressed the criticism that's being leveled that the Doherty modeling has kind of been set up based around the idea that there would be tens of cases, not hundreds / thousands of cases, which would be, and I mean thousands, 1,000, not hundreds of thousands, because that's the amount of cases that are likely to be happening by the time we get to 70%.
Yeah.
The modeling
70 to 80, 10 cases a day, then you can open up. They didn't think 70 to 80, 700 cases a day.
Or, what's projected. So they're saying that we'll get to about 70 to 80% by November. If you look at the graph, by November, it's 4,000 cases a day, according to the RF number.
So I'll put that here. On the modeling that we're on
thank you to the r/coronavirus down under community, doing incredible work as independent data journalists. So he went on the ABC and has talked about it, addressing that point. So I'll insert that clip here.
There are millions, as you know, struggling with the lockdowns. Just to be really clear for them this morning, will lockdowns end once 70% of the adult population is vaccinated, or is it 80%, or is it something higher than that?
Well, as the plan says. The plan says in Phase B they are highly unlikely and targeted. Highly unlikely and targeted.
Does that mean they end in Sydney and Melbourne?
No, it says it's highly unlikely and targeted. That's what I just said.
And from that, you can see that, no, he absolutely did not address that question at all, and he sort of just talked around it. So we have this mythical idea that there's going to be a 70 to 80%, we're going to get to that, and then everything will be...
It'll just open up, and the little virus spores will just bounce harmlessly off our vaccinated titties.
Yeah. So I feel like a large amount of this is sort of there feels like there's a rising tension. You can kind of feel it over the social media and stuff, or with even conversations with your friends. And I do think that it's we're all kind of coming to the realization that maybe we will never be going back to normal, like orgies and gigs and anything where there's like a bunch of people. I mean, those are our experiences, but I you know, whatever you used to do is probably not going to be exactly like it was before.
I'm starting to realise that maybe we're fucked. Absolutely fucked.
But well, you know, look, I think whatever you kind of view that future, but I do think it's like a slow realization that it's not going to be normal, and if it's not the pandemic, then it's definitely climate change kind of just creeping up in the back here. You and I both watched kind of in horror as the lockdown protests occurred. It's kind of like watching your own, you know, try to rationalize and protest a thing that cannot be rationalized with. So this week we had large anti-lockdown protests in all our capital cities with actual Nazis, and you know that raises the question:
not all of them, but they were there too.
Do we have a Nazi problem in Australia? Of course we do. And I also just want to put a clip of the horse idiot from Queensland.
Everyone cross the border, they can't hold all of us.
Oh, the guy who like once more into the breached.
Yeah. Which is also like, I realize that some of you out there are just kind of like, you know, crystal mums who don't believe in like putting unnatural things inside of like their kids or whatever. But a lot of these people are lunatics. And one thing that I've been struggling to reconcile with or understand is this unusual combination of people. I've talked about it a million times. Like, how do the crystal mums and the neo-Nazis align, right?
And how do they end up mixed up with Joe Average, who's just sick of not being able to play his trade?
Totally.
Yeah.
So, and I just want to put a caveat that we will get to the point of the classist issues with the way the lockdown has been handled. We will come to that because there are problems.
You mean handled in terms of presented or policed?
Both.
Okay.
All and above. I want to share a tweet that comes from Patrick Stokes. He's a philosopher and an associate professor at Deakin University. This is excellent. This is something I've been trying to fucking articulate for like 100 years.
Lay it on us, Pat.
He says, if you wanted to find the common thought broad enough to hold together anti-vax, anti-lockdown, alt-med, QAnon, and RW populism, it's the idea that our lives are meant to go well. So if they're not, it's due to some alien but removable imposition. And I think this is it. I feel like people think that there's an imposition on what they think their lives are meant to be. And I hate to break it to you, but your life is not meant to be anything. You're a fucking clump of cells on a floating rock in the infinite expanse of space. You do not have any control. You were born where you were born. You are who your genes dictate who you are. The feeling of choice and your experience of that is just a feeling. But I get it. You can't go outside and you can't do whatever you want, and it sucks. It really fucking sucks. And just an aside here, for the people who think that lockdowns are the right way to deal with this, we don't like lockdowns. It's fucking awful, and the mental health issues are real considerations, but no amount of wishing and disbelief and tantrums are going to rationalize with a virus. It's like a collective hysteria of people in disbelief that life can actually be shitty for this long and that the ending might not be good.
Did we just tell our audience that there's no God?
Oh, there is no God.
There's no God. Yeah,
and
we had to drop that on you like that.
No God, no freedom. You didn't already have freedom. But it's also just that thing of like, why are we trying to like the protest is a tantrum about I can't.
Well, it's approaching the situation as if there's some guy you can blame it on, some cunt. Or someone
who's just making this choice because it's
just some enemy, and it's very easy to go, the Chinese,
or Daniel Andrews,
or Gladys, or anything. But it's obviously much more complicated than that and stuff. And you know, it's like I understand the deep human desire to give this problem a face that can be punched.
Totally.
And then that would make it okay. A man with a fist can go boom and solve the problem, and we'll be like, yeah, got it, punched him out a window like McBain. But it's kind of not that situation. There's a bunch of shitty humans making it worse across the board, at the top and at the bottom. But it's still, I mean, I likened it when someone else was complaining this week about the enough is enough. I'm like, you wouldn't be angry at a volcano in the same way. I'm sick and tired of being told I can't play at the base of the volcano.
I do feel that way when I'm playing Civ though, and I'm like, stop exploding on me. Like, I don't want this. And I will just turn off those events.
This is bullshit though. I've had it up to here with volcanoes.
Yes.
And I'm just not going to take this seriously anymore. Oh, I got melted. It's the same sort of attitude. It's like the pandemic doesn't care about your feelings.
Or borders.
Which is a shame because we've got so many feelings about how this is shit, and I wish more than anything
everything. Oh my God.
and just like, oh God, if it could actually be a work, a lie.
Oh, we'd be in there fucking
I'd be like,
punching.
yeah, that'd be fucking wicked. If some guy, we'd pull the face off the pandemic and it was old man Peterson from the amusement
Oh,
park.
it's always over.
Yeah. Finally, we can punch the source of the pandemic. But unfortunately, it's more complicated than that.
So if you don't fall into those groups that have been sort of like medically excused from having the vaccine, here are some of the common reasons that I've read recently about why people aren't doing it and why those are incorrect. The argument that the vaccine is somehow not safe or kind of like rushed through.
Well, untested.
Yeah, it's untested.
Good enough.
I'm gonna wait till it's
but...
done with its clinical trials. Again, this is an excellent point. So, did you know that in 1960 we had the mumps vaccine and it was developed in 4 years? It's 2021. Science, I don't want to like freak you out, but has progressed since the 1960s, and it took us a year. Do you not think that it's possible for science, and with the fuckload of money that was thrown at it to keep the economies fucking going, that this vaccine is like, it did not skip a single fucking test, and it was able to be tested in a larger than normal actual pandemic response because there was already a global pandemic going along.
Man, how many other health issues do you think they pulled scientists off
I mean,
to work on this? Like
yeah.
so many other, some people out there with obscure diseases are like, oh, they just halted all research.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been bad for other things.
Because they just put all the money, all the fucking stat points went into coronavirus.
Overwhelmingly, the safer and smarter decision to take the vaccine versus taking your chances with getting COVID. Not to mention that every single one of you who chooses not to get vaccinated, who is perfectly reasonable and able to, right? Who, again, we need to protect the people who cannot for medical reasons. If you are choosing not to get the vaccine, you are making the world unsafe for everybody else, because the more of you who don't get it allows more variants to be created, because you are stopping herd immunity from being possible for those who are immunocompromised. So there's a good range of memes going around that compared the plight of the people of Afghanistan, who are actually having their human rights stripped away at this point. The comparison puts into stark light how ridiculous it is that people feel like their freedoms are being taken away. Have you seen those comparisons?
I have, but there is that thing where, you know, I'm hungry. Yeah, well, there's people who are starving, but that's very well, but I still want my lunch. Like,
sure.
There is a bit of, that's sort of, you know, there's not a finite supply of trouble in the world, and just because things are fucked elsewhere doesn't mean things can't be bad here. And also, I would say that a lot of the people who are stomping around yelling "my freedoms" and trying to bite police officers on the weekend are operating under the assumption that, yes, you're right, that is terrible over there. We are doing this in part so we don't end up like other places. But this idea that the man is trying to seize more power, it's like, oh, no fucking shit. That's his MO at all times. So maybe vote for a party that's going to introduce a corruption watchdog, because God knows the current mob doesn't want that in there at all. In the wake of 9/11, all sorts of terror laws that came in to keep us safe have been misused and exploited to exert authority over people. You know, the AFP raid journalists. They arrest YouTuber producers on anti-terror laws. Like, this shit's been around for a long time. And I know there is a core contingent of these lockdown protests who are lifers in terms of fighting the man, and some of them have probably jumped in on things like Black Lives Matter protests, the climate change protests that were happening. You know, they authentically believe that those in power would like nothing more than us to turn into little drone sheep, and then they could do what they like. And to those people I say, I probably agree with you. But I think so many people have jumped on board only just now because they've become personally inconvenienced. And I think that's what's galling. It's like, fuck, you didn't care about anyone else in detention. Our country's been locking people up for fucking years.
But if you're the personal freedoms that are taken away when you live in essentially a nanny state, like, you already live in something that is described as a nanny state, like, you already have your freedoms
like, we are a very regulated country to begin with.
How do you feel about
and
seatbelts,
usually those regulations stop one from accidentally driving through the front of your fucking house. But in this particular situation, you've been prevented from going to the footy, and now you're fucking outraged.
I mean, there's a philosophical debate to be had about, like, how much the state needs to intervene in order to stop you from killing yourself in, like, really stupid ways, and whether your life has any meaning at all. Like, I don't know, you have that debate in the comments below. But honestly, like...
Is free will an illusion? Let us know in the comments below.
So one thing I want to raise is that the there are obviously a certain percentage of people who are protesting these things who are not wrong. The government has handled this extremely terribly, and I understand why you would be fucking outraged. You, in order to have a successful rollout of any of these measures, you need to have clear and decisive leadership, which the opposite of Gladys Berejiklian. I think she's done a fucking awful job. Again, you can see in the rollout where only a week ago she was like, we got this, and she now is like, we literally do not got this.
We do not got this.
We do not got this. So I think that that's a really important part, but you also need to pay people. We need to give people enough money to stay home where it is possible. Now, obviously, we have to acknowledge that there is a class divide. They're calling it the latte line in Sydney, and I think there's a very similar thing in Melbourne where certain suburbs are full of people who have to go to work because they are fucking, what is it, like necessary workers? Yeah, right? So you...
They make the trains run on time.
Yeah,
that sort of thing, yeah.
Things that have to happen. But for everybody else who's in that middle band who can stay home, they should be paid. It is obvious that they can pay them. So we know now that, I'll put the link in below for the article, but corporations were paid $1 billion on job seeker and keeper schemes.
Fact.
$20 million in executive bonuses going out in that period, and multiple businesses recording a profit and not being required to pay it back. They also haven't published this list of recipients. It's really disgusting.
Oh, so people, like, so we know about Jerry Harvey and a couple of others.
We do.
But there's a whole bunch of businesses who are
it's not
It's like, can we have it back? Can we have the money back so we can give it to poor people? No.
But they are clawing back from the poorest people $32 million. Now, what I guess...
This is robo-debt too, yeah?
Yeah, this is robo-debt, people clawing back, and, you know, there was the article of the lady who was, you know, she owed them $500 and, like she's like a nana who cannot, like...
Your husband has to come in and give us this money. He fucking died.
It's so egregious, but my point would be that anybody who's thinking that, like, oh no, that's just like an economic impossibility. No, it isn't. They literally can do this. They've given so much money. I mean, again, if you're worried about where the money's going to come from, maybe don't give companies that are making a profit, you know, $1 billion. $1 billion.
Oh, it's gotten to the point where shopping at Harvey Norman is an act of domestic terrorism.
It is.
It's that cunt. Australia is lucky that our arts and entertainment culture are so used to starving to death that we're either too malnourished to fight back, or this started happening and we're like, well, of course we're getting fucked.
Yeah, of course.
It's the arts. And so they're not surprised, whereas I think a lot of in other industries that often get taken care of are sort of like, fucking what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Part of the way to fix this is clear communication, reinstate JobKeeper 2.0, but give it, make sure that contractors and the people who were missed out the first time round get that money. Great, sorted. So that's part of it.
How much would that appease things? It's like...
The third way we can...
No, you do your thing. You roll with it. I'll just slow us down.
Go. The third way that we can lessen the amount of people who are full-on COVID, you know, at these protests is that we can put in restrictions and incentives. So carrot and stick, right?
Fucking stick at the moment, isn't it?
Restrictions make sense. The more businesses that require you to have the vaccine, the more normalized it will become. The more travel and other events, like to go to the football or whatever, you have to be vaccinated. The more that becomes normalized, the more it will be just like an inconvenience, and therefore you will do it if you're on the fence. Then we also need incentives. Fucking pay people to get vaccinated. Pay them to take the day off. I think Victoria just introduced a thing for public servants where they can get a half day.
There is some
leave.
support for waiting for your tests to come back.
Well, that's if you're sick, but this is literally for vaccinations.
Okay.
Give people a week of paid leave or whatever if they get sick. Just make it as easy as possible. I am still talking to people who are like, where do I book and how do I book? It's not apparent. It's not drop a letter in everybody's house. Tell them when their appointment is. See how many people fucking go. I bet just make it easier. So restrictions or incentives. So those are the ways I think that we can make this easier. Now, the other area I want to address that I've seen a lot this week is the idea of being kind and respectful to those who choose not to get vaccinated.
What's all this crap I'm hearing about tolerance?
Yeah. So,
I'm disgusted. I'm triggered at the idea of being kind and tolerant.
I think always be kind. Do not be violent. But I think there is a dangerous... Oh boy. There is a dangerous process of normalization if we are, you know, accepting of people who choose not to get vaccinated. Again, the whole caveat is there. If you cannot get vaccinated, fine. Put you out of that conversation. But I'm talking about all the people who are perfectly capable of getting vaccinated who simply choose not to for anything from hesitancy all the way to being full-on Nazis who think somehow this is their freedom. I just think that if we go down the path of making it socially acceptable to not get vaccinated, we will end up with too many percent of people not being, like, again, if the magic number is 80% and 20 to 30% of you will not get vaccinated, we will never hit that number and we will never open up. It's like the idea of, like, if you all go to the Pebble Beach and everybody takes a pebble, there'll never be any pebbles left. Like, you don't feel personally taking that one pebble like you're gonna make a difference.
But it adds up.
But it adds up. So I don't think we should be normalizing or socially, we should be caramelizing. I think we shouldn't be socially accepting people who are like, nah, not me, not put it in my body. No.
I understand at a legal and government level not wanting to say you have to have it. To me, I think that's it's too provocative a path to go down. God help them if they get it wrong and they make everyone have thalidomide 2 electric boogaloo. You know, there's a couple of reasons, if anything, just because it's more polarizing than beneficial to make it you have to. Mm-hmm. And I think what makes up the difference there is, you're right, it's a kind of social pressure. And it's the same social pressure that stops people from pissing all over the seats on the train. It's like, it's their liberties, but also, no, stop him. Grab the end of his penis so it blows up like a water balloon.
Off. Like, how many times have you seen that thing on a train?
You think I don't want to jack off on a train? All the time! The stripy coloured seats make me want to do it. The central swaying of the handlebars.
I would have put that tweet here that was just like, can I masturbate after I get the vaccine jab? And the guy's like, just wait till you get home.
If everyone comes down on the train masturbator too hard, they will become vilified.
Train shooter.
You get this in wrestling all the time, right? Okay. So it's this idea that profession. Boom! Finally, it's onto the wrestling. Boom! So there's this idea in wrestling that we are self-governed, and I would prefer that than we all pay some fee to the government for them to do fuck all. But within wrestling, we kind of regulated ourselves. And that kind of works. But there's this thing sometimes where a group or a person within the industry is doing a shitty thing, and the criticism can become almost a sort of gleeful, sadistic pile-on. And rather than discouraging these people from being fucking idiots and ruining our industry, it's not necessarily. But the problem is when you come down on them so hard, it can almost make them feel like the underdog hero. Mm-hmm. And instead you can almost... And then
they use that to
cultivate more resistance. Yeah, this is like when Batman started being Batman and he crushed all the regular gangsters, and then a new kind of super criminal rose up in that gap.
I think that's why it's really important to look at what is the goal. Right now, we are preaching to the choir and having a good old complaint to people who already agree with us, but obviously some of us have to do the dirty work of trying to convince people who disagree. And that obviously is part of the solution.
I think, with the exception of the truly dysfunctional and misanthropic, we're all kind of on the same page. You, me, your aunties who don't want to get vaccinated, your friends who don't believe there is a COVID. Ultimately, we're all on the same page, though, in that we want us and the people we care about to be long and happy and relatively pain-free. So I understand all that. And the problem is, for it all to kind of function as a society and for it to work and for you to flick the switch and the lights come on, there's a certain degree of self-sacrifice and collaboration required. To make anything bigger than yourself, it requires people to work together. And that's incredibly hard. As artists, freedoms. We understand there's nothing harder than the toleration of other ideas, because as you know, anyone who has to collaborate for a living, everyone else's ideas are fucking stupid and they should just shut up and do what you say. So we understand that. And so, as tempting as it is to come at the people you disagree with a hammer, and I am as guilty as anyone, if not more so, for dual-wielding hammers. And I guess we want it to be a velvet hammer of love and compassion rather than a blood-stained mallet of iron and contempt. And so let us not forget at this time, as we sort of all start to turn on each other, what the real enemy is. Evil billionaires who treat us like the human batteries in the Matrix. And if anything, the fact that they want us to get vaccinated is indicative of the fact that will keep us alive, because they want us to continue to stay alive so we can feed their hideous blood factories, so they can continue to use us as a resource. No one wants their crops to die, and we are their crops. So I guess, in conclusion, you kind of know that taking COVID seriously makes sense, because billionaires only do things that benefit them. That's why they lie about climate change and then build walls around their golf courses. They know it's real.
They're building full-on domes at this point.
So Live to fight the man another day.
Demand
by making
payments.
sure you don't die of COVID, but also give people some fucking support, because no one's going to willingly stay at home and starve to death with no money. Free money equals more friends. Pay people to be good citizens.
And then maybe they'll get vaccinated and they will stop protesting your ridiculous lockdowns that have no end in sight.
I know if I had money for a new PS5, I would stay home rather than go and protest.
Oh my god, I would love a PS5. So Daniel Andrews, give us a PS5, or maybe I'll join the
And stop
protest.
approving fracking, you cunt.
And destroying indigenous, like, sacred sites.
Yeah, stop chopping down sacred trees
You make
and
it
approving
very
offshore
hard
drilling.
to, like, be pro-you, you know?
It does. And I'm not a Daddy Dan guy myself. Like, I align with him on COVID, but other than
Everything
that,
else.
I think he's a shit cunt. I don't think he's a friend of the environment. I don't think he's a friend of
Just want friends of the
people who
environment.
struggle. But I do think he wants us all to live and survive.
Yeah. Wow.
So on that sense, I think he's doing better than Gladys, who hates people and murders koalas.
We actually have to say thank you so much, because now we have, I think, more than 100 of you. So
100 subscribers! Holy shit!
We are basically NBC at this point. Yeah, that's quite exciting.
I'm assuming half the subscribers are koalas that I keep giving shout outs to.
What's up, boys?
Thanks, guys, you fuzzy little bastards. Join in. Please share, subscribe. Stay alive
Stay
and
safe
sexy.
and get vaccinated. We'll put the links below.